Today we will cover a topic that is extremely important to me, humans. Bots are cool and all, but humans rule in my book. Humans are the most important system in the equation. When they take the back seat, your customers suffer. I want to give a shout out to all the humans in the room that showed up today. I know some of you snuck some of your bots in here, so if you did, I'm just asked that you keep them quiet and they be on their best behavior. How many of you been in an incident where an auto-remediator made things worse? Anybody? If you haven't, great, you will. It was chaos, right? Why was it? This talk is about that gap, what happens in that gap, the one between human intuition and machine logic. I witnessed countless times where precious outage minutes are wasted on chasing false positives. How many times have you sat in the middle of an incident where you're chasing your tail? You get fixated on a bad signal or historical bias. You're running down these rabbit holes and you don't come up for air and kind of surface to see what's going on. Many times we have to get back to the basics. Stop chasing those false positives. The incident commander calls out, okay team, let's clear the slate, reassess the problem from a fresh vantage. Forget what AI is telling us. Forget what that alert was telling us. This is not a P3 level impact. This is a complex, compounding issue with multiple breakpoints. The auto-remediator and the autoscaler are having a standoff. I've seen this recently where an autonomous taxi company had 3 cars at a dead-end street in gridlock. They were just sitting there waiting on each other, not knowing who to and what to take action. And don't get me wrong, I've seen these cars in action. They are not polite drivers. Downtown during getting out of a busy NFL or a basketball game, they are the only ones that get out of traffic while everybody's sitting there in gridlock. One of the things that they did was employ a fail-safe. So when those cars were sitting there in gridlock, it called out. Went back to a human and asked for guidance. Created that ability to be able to have that checkpoint to, okay, automation failed, I'm aware that I failed, now I need to bring the human back in the loop. These are a few examples of the chaos that manifests among SRE teams today. So, there's a massive gap between adoption velocity and trust calibration. 68% of orgs have AI agents and will have them in 2026. This is a top-down approach, and I'm sure most of you are seeing CTOs in all the boardrooms across the globe. We need AI, everybody get AI. This year it's agentic. Last year was AI, but now it's agentic. It's an imperative need that everybody's trying to grab for it and they must have. When you gain insights from the bottom up though, 16% of orgs fully trust AI to make those automatic decisions on their behalf. This is the paradox that we need to solve. How do you build something with confidence and you don't trust it? The encouraging news is 62% of us say that the trust has increased. So although it's still only 16%, we've increased our trust over the past year, so we're generally heading in the right direction. Yet we're deploying AI faster than we're building trust, that we're creating governance, and adding human systems to support it. Almost half of the organizations plan to integrate agentic AI within the next 6 months, but fewer than one-fifth of them actually fully trust it. How many automatic remediation, do you trust your AI to do auto remediation right now? Anybody? No? Nobody? I thought I was gonna have one in the back. No. So I guess the next question is, do you trust it for P1? But the answer is hell no. I don't trust it to do anything. Speaking of, I brought up trust a few times, so let's go through and define it. Frey and Morris are famous for defining it as a triangle. And I love this triangle. This triangle is made up of logic. Logic for a human is your resume. You know, your competency, you see something on a resume, this is what they've done, you see their academics, everything's on that resume. Empathy is, do you have a strong personal connection? Do you intimately know your customer, your client, or the subject that you're reviewing? And then authenticity. Do you gaslight? Or do you show up the same way, your whole self every day, and never change, steadfast? Now let's add an AI lens over it and see what this looks like. Logic breaks when AI can't explain itself. So this is when it's doing a black box auto-remediation and it doesn't know what happened. Empathy breaks when the system adds cognitive load and instead of reducing alerts, you get this alert storm and everything just creates a P1 type of scenario. Authenticity breaks when AI says, fix something. But it didn't. It failed silently and you weren't aware of what happened. Think about the last time you lost trust in an automated system. Which one of these corners broke for you? Was it logic? Was it empathy? Was it authenticity? So, let's see this in action. This is me. Looks like a mugshot. It's the source of truth. It's your baseline. This is your code in terms of what's in production, what's in your main branch right now. Okay, so let's try something. Hey, I softened the portrait from a mugshot to a glamorous headshot. Like, who does that? Everybody, right? Let's see what it did. Seems harmless, but if you look closely at the features, they're already starting to shift and look very, very different. This is your first automated PR with very little changes, but nobody really notices if they don't really look carefully. So let's keep going. Hey AI, I need to change it to a blue tech background, because that background is terrible. It replaced the entire background, but also started to change the looks and the features and change the complexion. Context is completely different. This is your auto-remediator swapping out infrastructure from a config because it optimized something. This is the person is still there, but the environment is wrong. Okay, let's land this. I got a deadline, I need to get this code change out. Hey AI, this is still rough. The hue, the likeness has some drift. You need to go fix it. It responds, great catch. Okay, let me fix that for you. This is the final outcome. This is full drift. So we've gone through, and AI changed everything. Background, hair, face, look. It's no longer me. But if you blindly trust AI, this is what's in your production today. And for some of you in the back of the room, if you've never seen me before, you probably have looked at that picture and said, oh yeah, that's Eddie, and you're in the conference looking for me off of that particular picture. The logic looks all polished, looks really clean, but empathy says the human connection, the source of truth, the Eddie, is missing. And authenticity, AI never told you that it was going to change the fundamental aspects of how I look. And that's your core code, right? Everybody knows what I look like if you know me. If you don't have that empathy and authenticity to really know me, then you're probably pushing out number 4 to code. Garbage in, garbage out. How many people say this? I say it all the time. Many different ways, but like this is, Gigo is, I might get a shirt that says Gigo on it. Building products with cognitive knowledge, not founded on institutional experience, nor intimate context of your subject, is how we get here. What if your product owner never actually met with their customers? What are your user stories really even based on? 65% of employees think that their data they're building on solid data. Strong foundations are everything. Cognitive knowledge looks like the state of Arizona certifying my son is ready to drive a car. The cert was gained because he read a rule book a couple months back, memorized some of the answers, failed the test a few times, but then he finally got a passing score. So when you step back and think about that, at least for me as a father, it's kind of scary as hell that my 16-year-old is now ready to drive just because he has cognitive knowledge that he read from a book. How many of you folks are seeing your feeds full of hashtag certified? Anybody? The reality is 3/4 of leaders think that their teams need additional training on how to leverage data. We won't even touch non-standard structured data because we don't have time for that today. There was a headline a few weeks back. There was a to Z marketplace company that put humans back in the loop as its retail website crashes from inaccurate advice. That advice was gained from an old wiki page. It's not all about your model starving or your engineers not intimately knowing, your business. Tech debt is a silent killer. Documentation hoarder syndrome is real. Folks are scared to delete old wiki pages and Fluence pages. I'm not just the president of the data hoarders for humans, I'm also the customer. Maybe your systems are in mixed mode. You have an ongoing migration, so you have contracting design principles. What happens if those archive repos actually get pulled into your ecosystem? Yeah, you guessed it. You have a critical system failure for 5.5 hours, and your website is down. Pop quiz. What percentage of your alerts are actually actionable? Less than 10%? 10 to 30%? Anybody have alerts that are more than 30% actionable? No? The SAN surveys found that 73% of false positives are the #1 challenge. That's up drastically from last year. We're adding more tools, more AI, more automation, but the noise is getting worse. 960 plus average daily alerts per org. 3,000 alerts coming in at the enterprise level. 30% of the alerts go uninvestigated. We better hope that's not that one over there that is the actionable alert that never goes uninvestigated, because that's the one that's going to wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Again, it's garbage in, garbage out. Finding that balance of well-tuned alerts is what gives you that adequate and have event orchestration based on business acumen. This is just not at the organization level. You may need to do this at the segmentation level, bring this down, or even cross-segmentation, depending on your business model, at the domain level, and potentially at the feature level. But there can be a challenge with this as well if you have cognitive bias. An example would be the shed in my backyard. Let's say it's on fire. It's my home. My home is my pride and joy. So that shed in my backyard on fire is extremely urgent to me. It is my #1 priority. But it doesn't require national mobilization. We're not going to call the White House and bring in all the troops just for the shed in my backyard being on fire. You need to be able to understand that the urgency is scaled to the scope of view and leverage that from a perspective of ITIL v4, where urgency multiplied by impact, and then map that to an appropriate engagement model. That way, you're not running P1s that actually should be a P3 type of alert and never even really get seen by anybody. That should just get washed away. Toil. SREcon26 from Catchpoint found that toil is rising. First time in 5 years. AI was supposed to fix all of this. And I'm sure there's a lot of exhibitors out there that say that they can. I hope they can. How many of you spend more time supervising AI outputs? Let's check out these stats. 34% of the time is spent on toil. 49% say AI actually reduced their workload, which we should celebrate, but let's not pop the bottles yet, especially you leaders out there, because 70% say that they're stressed from on-call and they're getting burnt out. If your teams are getting burnt out, we are heading in the wrong direction, because AI is not going to help us do that. If AI is creating additional toil and burden to your org, I truly hope that you have mutual trust with your leadership, where you can have radically candid conversations and try to understand that. For the leaders in the room, you need to quickly acknowledge it. You need to own it, and you need to course correct. All the burnout before it cascades. I know a guy that can help. The solution is what I call commanding the chaos, CTC for short. It's my tried and true system on how to become a world-class conductor, harmonizing the symphony of chaos. Psychological safety is real. I've been through it. Whether it's 3 a.m. on a long weekend or 5 hours into a catastrophic failure, fatigue is real. Yet it's rarely underscored in the mean time to X metrics or added to an after action plan. As a commander or any role really, you need to be that calm in the eye of the hurricane. Leave your emotions and titles at the door. Situational awareness and system thinking can be the difference between a 4-minute blip with retries and front page news. Your architecture is fully active-active, regional redundancy. Your regions are running at an 85-15 split to keep the cache warm, to keep the connections warm in your failover scenario, because you're active-active. Yet, you didn't account for your cloud hyperscaler scheduling maintenance in your secondary region. You shouldn't have to. It's supposed to be transparent to you. Nonetheless, you approve a patching exercise in cab in your main cluster. During that patch, an ad hoc batch run applies undue capacity pressure. Whoops. When out of nowhere, your main database has a DIM failure. The chaos storm is created. Alarms are going off left and right. The database promotes new leaders to take over, but by then the hurricane has already hit the shores and is impacting your customers. Everyone is on the call trying to figure out what's going on, crossing their fingers, hoping that this is just a game day exercise and none of this is real. They aren't ready for any of the compound fractures that just happened and trying to figure out how do we pull these apart and provide an actual solution to go through. The commander calls out to the SREs. What is our SRE bot telling us? Did our autonomous recovery plan kick in yet? Why aren't we recovering yet? When I speak of chaos, I tend to visualize the weather person standing solo out there against the winds of a hurricane, trying to provide the viewers with the authentic vantage point of the chaos that they're in. I know everybody see that one weatherman, and there's memes of people where you look left and there's a lady walking down the street and no, there's not the winds. But I love the representation of a hurricane because it is chaos. It is all this chaos, but in the eye of that storm, and this is what I teach my commanders, to actually stand on the tallest building in the eye of that storm. So you have the vantage of 360 degrees to look at the event or system or product that's going on in its totality. You're not just getting rabbit-holed or pigeonholed or really just focused on one thing to go to market, et cetera. These are the corner cases that I teach about every day, that we need to surface them operationally during every single task that we implement. Then carry that thinking forward to the next degree of separation. So let's train the trainer, keep it going forward. That way it's not just you being the system thinker or the next level, like you're relying on one person. The entire organization needs to be system level thinkers. Anyone can go through and tabletop a DR exercise and do a scripted DR failover. But could you actually run one? I asked that to one of my colleagues that was in a role before I joined for 3 years. We ran tabletop exercises every quarter. They were the DR captain. As the DR captain, they come in, call everybody, 300 people on a bridge. We are in a DR level event. I need you to run your actions. They would pull out this Excel sheet that has different tabs. And each one of these tabs, it has a whole domain, and they go through and they walk through it. But the DR captain on the call, you know the most important thing that they do? The most important thing they do on that call is to tell everybody, this is just a drill. Don't actually execute any of those actions. And so we did that for a few times. And then I started doing my level of thinking. Hey, what if a DR actually happened? You're the DR captain. Are you ready to take over? Are you ready to fail the systems over? Do you even know how to get to our DR site? Scared the living soul out of them. Never wanted to actually be the DR captain after that. So it's think through of not just going through the motions. You need to actually dive deep and understand what's going on and make sure that you're capable of getting to the end point in the journey. Not just saying, high five, we did a DR failover. Yeah, but what if you didn't have a DR site? What if one of the regions for your DR site was having capacity issues, et cetera? Account for those, think through those, and make sure that you know where you're headed. Okay, Eddie, my organization has lots of system people thinking, but we still fail at chaos. Why is that? Great question, Bob, from the back row. This is a great place to be in. You're very close, but you need a key ingredient. That key ingredient is full alignment, period, point blank. I think I missed this. Okay, sorry. So what does that look like when you don't have alignment? So reactive mode looks like you're off chasing alerts, and you're trying to herd cats. Less automation, run rampant, you don't have the oversight. AI is your super class. Your engineers are inherited all the knowledge from the AI and they don't really know nothing. They're blindly fixing things during an incident that they assume potentially will get you back to baseline. Or even worse, you have fear and panic set in and your leadership comes in and tells you to perform actions that may or may not work and aren't grounded on anything. How do you get to system level thinking? That mode looks like, hopefully everybody in here, where you understand the scope of the impact and you can see the entire landscape. Humans are validating and placing scrutiny on the outputs. One person in command, could you imagine 12 Gordon Ramsays in a kitchen cooking? It would be chaos, right? Taking action after understanding the risk, the full risk, and some of that risk is, what happens if I take this action? What happens if I don't take an action and we sit here for another 20 minutes deliberating on what we should or shouldn't do? Just like Jack said, you need to sometimes take an action and understand from that action what your next best action is. So your team is fully investing on shifting right in this particular example. You mapped your rubric of impact multiplied by urgency back to the business priority, so you're fully aligned with the business. You crafted world-class event orchestration, you trust your validation from your SREs on your AI, et cetera, et cetera. However, disconnect, lack of collaboration, and lack of alignment from the top of your organization all the way down to the bottom fractures your ability to command the chaos efficiently. You could have a tried and true tested run of rail cars on a train that are working in unison, but once they get derailed, it exponentially makes the situation worse. It's almost impossible to get that train back on the track and running again. How many of you have been in an incident where everything just got derailed and they actually go pull your team off, say, let's get a whole new team in here? That doesn't happen. Think about being at the Super Bowl and you pull in the third string quarterback and assume that this is going to make everything better. It doesn't. So I'd like to understand, do you agree the difference between a 15-minute resolution and a 3-hour war room is usually the first 2 minutes of decision making? Anybody agree with that? Anybody not agree? I'd like to understand why. Take a second, let's think about it. First 2 minutes of an incident is where things start to spin up and cascade. And so the decisions that you make at that point potentially lay out the framework of how the rest of the incident is going to roll out. PwC found that technology delivers only about 20% of the initiates, the value. The other 80% comes from redesigning the work. That is why it's so important and why so many AI tools fail flat. You can't just drop a tool on a broken process. It doesn't help. You're just running faster to the end point of falling off the cliff. The convergence is cultural. cognitive, and procedural with the overarching layer of governance. Change is scary. Even in a world of continuous technical iteration, the reluctance to change course or admit defeat becomes your inflection point. I've worked on a lot of products. The ones that end up with most success are the ones with the deep collaboration. I'm not talking about the Scrum team collaborating. Yeah, they're a large portion of what's going on, but this is really when the consumer was inclusive to every phase. When they both are in lockstep working through the entire of the process, you tend to produce a product that the customer will advocate and as well as developers can take pride in. I was in a session last night with just that, and you saw the pride that came from the customer advocating. Building bright, new, and shiny is always intriguing, but be intentional in what you build. Create some lasting impact. This drives job satisfaction far more than any new tool that never gets adopted. Are you building a bridge, or are you trying to catapult to the other side? Catapulting to the other side may help you win the race, but it won't keep you on that podium. Many teams are in the observe phase. The AI is monitoring the alerts. The human is not in the loop. They are the loop. But like most of us, we're working feverishly by the direction of our CTO that we need to advance to the advise stage. AI is giving us good recommendations what we should do next. And then we're trying to get to the assist phase. Agentic is born. AI said, step back, let me cook, I got this. Yet as we've seen earlier, advancing through without the right controls or the right change management for that matter can cause a reset and send you back to step one. So you need to make sure that you're ready to get there and you actually are performing the actions and the governance to really get there. Lastly, there's the partner phase. AI is driving and the humans are now the co-pilot. We're sitting on the side watching AI and we're advising it. Maybe this time next year we'll see who made it to that phase, even if it's short-lived. Love to hear some of those war stories. Okay, well, how do we get there? Transparency. I'm huge on transparency. Clarity kills so many wasted cycles on multiple levels, across everything. Override. Like Waymo, do you have a phone a friend path? How do you scale, but more importantly, how do you learn from it? I've tested a lot of tools where they claimed that they would perform something, and then I was like, well, so just like we all do retrospectives at the end of the incident, how do you feed that back into your model? Oh, we don't feed it back into our model. Well, if you're not learning from it, then how are we ever going to iterate and grow? Guardrails, these are important. Very dependent on your segmentation, if you're an innovation company or you're a company that's heavily regulated, but guardrails can save lives in certain scenarios. Create them, embed them in your life cycle, make it a part of your life cycle. Going to market first can give you an advantage and give you an outside share of your customer base, but first impressions are everything. Customer feedback can be and will be brutal. I know I'm brutal, I'm very transparent, and I keep it real. And then lastly is feedback loops. Mistakes will be made. Continuing to make them over and over is shame on you. Your brand is everything, protect it. That's the trust bridge. Put the catapult away. There's no cheat codes here. There are 5 things that you can take back to your teams on Monday. Number 1, actionable alerts take priority. Start small, build confidence. Focus on the systems, the events that matter the most. Draw the line in the sand, and then once you get that accuracy improves, redraw that line and keep going down to the next level to where it makes sense from a business structure. Define your trust bridge building status. Where are you? Which systems are in the observe phase? Which one of them are they mature enough to get to the advanced stage? Do you have protocols built in? Think deeply about those dead-end streets. Don't get stuck on those train tracks with no evacuation plan. And this was front page news that somebody was stuck on the train tracks for 5 minutes and had to get out of the car because it was sitting there. Instill a culture of curiosity. Question the status quo. Sweat the small things. This is very critical from a system thinking. If you just go along with what AI is telling you or what you assume is right, and you don't question it, then you end up going in this path of just reiterating through the same scenario and you get caught in that same loop. So let's question it. Let's look at those critical paths and understand how do we get there and how do we get out of them. Mean time to resolve is just one of the metrics I like to implement. That level of granularity gets you into the fundamentals of why. Nobody measures trust, but it's a leading indicator of whether, from an AI investment standpoint, is it going to pay off? So from this talk and from yesterday's talk, you should have 2 new metrics that you should go back and implement. The first one is the mean time to WTF, and then now you can have the mean time to trust. Trust is earned and it's not bought. These are kind of my takeaways. Fatigue, it's real. Eradicate that parasitic draw on your teams. Don't let them burn out. Your teams are what have held the systems together, and you need to continue investing in them. 80-20 rule in decision-making is applicable in success. If your go-to-market is only going live with 20% of the equation, you're letting everything up for chance. Human and machines will continue to exist. It'll be very different than you saw today and tomorrow, and I guess iteratively every 4 months, but we will continue to exist for a very, very long time. AI, or augmented intellect, as most of us use it, is not 100% stand-in. Lastly, all 3 of these working together, composure, system thinking, and scaled automation, will allow you to command the chaos. Now let's get out there and GSD.